If you were to tell me that an indie developer would take inspirations from some of the greatest games of all time, Super Mario Bros. 3 and Ghosts and Goblins, and mash them up into a beautiful mess of a game, I would say, please give me that game. Well, Sigi, a fart for Melusina, might be that indie platformer that you were looking for, or at least you thought you were looking for. You see, sometimes when you take inspiration from great games, sometimes your game isn't that great. Now, I'm not saying that this is a bad game at all. I actually think that it's far from it, and I enjoyed my time, albeit short time, with this game quite a bit. It's a fun little platformer that you can run through in about 45 minutes time, and then again, it is only $4.99, so kind of temper your expectations with this. My problem with this game is kind of how bland it is. I mean, it takes inspirations from the games that I said before, and you could definitely see some of those games shining through. You know, the tight platforming of a Super Mario Bros. 3, and the weapon mechanics and overall aesthetic from Ghosts and Goblins. But when you combine those two together, it doesn't really make that same magic as the games of the past. You see, Ghosts and Goblins is one of the most difficult platformers of all time. It's very unforgiving, and even one hit by an opponent can send you to the grave. Pun intended. But this game is much more forgiving. You see, weapons can kill monsters, but you can also jump on monsters, which wasn't an original mechanic in Ghosts and Goblins. And I understand you kind of have to set yourself apart from these other games, but doing so, it kind of makes it easy. Really, really easy. Now, the story of Sigi is quite similar to Mario's stories as well, except one big difference, or one smelly difference. You let one rip, and then the princess of your dreams flies into the ocean, and it is your job to platform your way into her heart, hopefully not stopping at any more Taco Bells along the way. When it is all said and done, though, you can definitely see the inspirations coming through, especially from Ghosts and Goblins. The weapon system is quite similar to that classic game as well. You start out with a less than stellar weapon, and along the way you can pick up different weapons, which all kind of act the same, but, you know, the different ways in which you throw them and the arcs in which you throw them are different, just like Ghosts and Goblins. So you will find an axe or a sword or knives, so very similar to that game. And also the aesthetic of this game, it's kind of the spooky outside theme, and that aesthetic really doesn't change too much. It can get brighter, it can get darker, but, you know, you're going to spend this whole game outside. But the magic of this game comes from the platforming. It is very solid and very fun to play. There are different mechanics that you will find along the way, such as bouncy tires and cannons that you can get in that will send you across the level, but nothing too unusual here, and I think that's the problem. Sigi kind of plays it too safe, and in doing that, kind of results in a less than memorable game. Now, besides the awesome platforming in this game, there are some things to do within each level. Each level has 4 letters, S-I-G-I, scattered about, of course spelling Sigi, that you need to collect, or you can collect. If you collect them all, you will get a free life. Also, in Mario fashion, if you collect 100 coins in each level, you will get an additional life. Additionally, there are some branching paths and some different secret levels that you will need to access to get all of the collectibles in the level. Of course, there are different weapons scattered throughout, and you can skip whether or not you want to use them. I kind of found myself sticking with the knife and the sword because they're kind of straight throwing things, whereas the club and the chain kind of throws in it in an arcing motion, which is kind of difficult to use against enemies. Enemies such as bosses. Now, every 5 levels, you will face a brand new boss. The difficulty of these bosses, except the last one, is pretty low. I mean, there are different patterns, of course, that you need to follow. The health bar is pretty high, so that's kind of where the lives come in. You will lose probably about 5 lives for each boss, which I didn't find too bad. I mean, you take 3 hits, you lose a life. Besides the bosses, the enemy variety is kind of a bright spot in this game. You will face all different kind of creepy crawlies, skeletons, zombies, bats, ghosts, witches. So there are a very good variety of enemies, and they all kind of attack you differently. Now, I'm not saying they're difficult to kill. Most enemies are either 1 or 2 hits, so they're kind of cannon fodder at times. And the fact that you can platform on top of them to kill them greatly, like I said before, reduces any kind of difficulty within this game. With all that said, I definitely think that Sigi, A Fart for Melusina, is a good choice if you are interested in a 2D platformer. I know that the eShop right now is a sea of platformers, but this one kind of takes a different approach to it, and it does take inspiration, a lot of inspiration from Ghosts and Goblins, one of my favorite platformers of all time. This game is going to run about 45 minutes, like I was saying before, with a price of $4.99. I think it's worth the gamble. In terms of replayability, I'm actually motivated a little bit to lower my time. My first playthrough was about 43 minutes, and that was kind of me taking in the entire game. So I think, you know, now that I have the boss patterns down, I can definitely finish this game in, I think, 35 minutes. So I might go back and try to beat my time. So I definitely think that if you are speedrunning this game, that is another kind of perk to it. If you like speedrunning, I think this game will appeal to you in that sense. But that is it. Sigi, A Fart for Melusina. Thank you again for the developers for providing the copy. And if you want to get this game right now, it is available on the Nintendo eShop. Thank you guys for watching so much, and I will see you in the next video.